Today's scripture reading will be taken from Hebrews chapter 6, verses 16 through 19. Hebrews chapter 6, verses 16 through 19. For men indeed swear by the greater, and an oath for confirmation is for them an end of all dispute. Thus God, determining to show more abundantly to the heirs of promise, to the immutability of his counsel, confirmed it by an oath. Verse 18, that by two immutable things in which it is impossible for God to lie, we might have strong consolation for who have fled to refuge to lay hold of the hope set before us.
When the children of Israel marched into the promised land and started conquering it, the land began to be sliced, diced, and divvied up to all of these different sons of Jacob. And if you go through and you'll check all the land allotments, add them together, there are 3 that are found on the east side of the Jordan River, and then 10 on the west side. And at first this sounds a little strange because there were only 12 sons of Jacob, so why are there 13 allotments? Well, you'll see that 2 of them match in name, Manasseh on the west side, and there's a Manasseh on the east side. And it would seem to be because the tribe was so large that there would need to be 2 sections of land that would house all of those inhabitants. But then it becomes a little stranger when you consider, wait a minute, Manasseh wasn't a child of Jacob, so why did he get 2 pieces of land, or even 1 for that matter? And if you look just to the south, you'll see Ephraim, that's on the west side of the Jordan, just south of Manasseh. There's the smaller section of Ephraim. That wasn't a son of Jacob either. And why did he get any land? Well, the answer to this is because Joseph would get a double blessing in the land allotment, it would seem, from the role that he plays in saving the whole family and really the whole nation of Israel when he takes care of them as they go down southwest into the land of Egypt for a number of centuries. But it still doesn't really seem to fully make sense, because let's say you have 12 sons of Jacob, and you take away 1 in Joseph because he doesn't receive a land allotment with his name on it. But then you add 3 parcels of land, and you're going to get to 12, 13, 14. So why is it that we only have 13 and not 14? Well, if you're familiar with the sons of Jacob, you could go through and number 1, Reuben. All right? Yeah, I see Reuben. He's on there. Number 2, Simeon. That's on the east side for Reuben, southeast side. Number 2 is Simeon. Yeah, I see him. He's in Judah. Number 3, Levi. Oh, that's where it is. Levi's not found on here. Well, that's not very fair, is it? That all these other tribes get this land allotted to them. Joseph doesn't have his name on one, but he gets a double blessing. And then actually you could make the case almost a triple, because Manasseh gets 2 different sections, one of his sons, and Ephraim the other one. So why doesn't Levi get a provincial slice like all the others? Levi does get land, but it's different than all the rest. You're probably aware that the Levites become the specialized servants, of God, first in the tabernacle and then later on in the temple. You have the worship leaders, and then the priests that will come from a specific portion, the descendants of Aaron, which is a couple of generations down from Levi. Levi doesn't get a province like all the others, but Levi does receive cities scattered throughout the territory, and probably because this has to do with gathering the animals, taking care of them, and then bringing them down for the sacrifices that are going to be made, the grain offerings, and all the other sorts of offerings that will take place as well. They're in charge, it would seem, of all these things. So it would make sense that they have places, but throughout the entire territory, 48 of them, 48 Levitical cities to be exact. Now, for you biblical numerologists, I was thinking 12 times 4 in the sense. So 12, the religious, and it would be the inheritance of the 12 or the religious on the earth the number 4, and that may be some significance that's behind it. But regardless, there are 48 Levitical cities that are found. And this highly pertains to our discussion today when we talk about the Old Testament cities of refuge, as we try to ascertain what's their significance for a New Testament people. Now, if you're not super familiar with the Old Testament cities of refuge, it's okay, because we're going to describe all of it in one setting right here. We're just going to hit the cliff notes. And if your mind works like mine, I don't like to jump around a lot because my mind then gets to skipping around. I like to stick mostly in one place. I think it helps to keep a cohesive message in place. So we're going to do this just looking at one place in the Old Testament, Joshua, the 20th chapter, in only 6 verses. The cities of refuge are described very well, what their purpose was. So let's see if we can figure that out together. What is an Old Testament city of refuge? Well, in short, it's a safe place where you can run if you become afraid. Look at the first 3 verses of Joshua chapter 20 with me, where the Lord also spoke to Joshua, saying, I want you to speak to the children of Israel, saying, appoint for yourselves cities of refuge, of which I spoke to you through Moses, that the slayer who kills a person accidentally or unintentionally may flee there. We're going to come back to that condition here in just a little bit. But for now, I want to talk about the cities of refuge themselves. Remember, Levi does not have a province like all the other sons of Jacob are going to possess in the land. But Levi is given 48 Levitical cities where all this work can be done, their people can stay and rule over these. But there are 6 of these that are very special. These are the cities of refuge. And I encourage you to notice the geographical significance of them. If you look for Kadesh on the west side of the Jordan River, Kadesh is in the north, Shechem is centrally located, Hebron in the south. Then on the east side of the Jordan, Golan in the north, Ramoth Gilead, somewhat centrally located, and then Bezer is found in the south. I think the purpose probably behind this is if you need to go to one of these places, you don't have to travel 100 miles to get there. No matter where you are, there's going to be a city of refuge that is in reasonably close proximity to you. Now, as far as the condition itself, if you are responsible for someone's death, I say responsible, accidentally or unintentionally kill the person, so maybe in a sense you're not responsible, but the person has died because of you, but you're not at guilt, you feel like, because of this. So this hasn't been premeditated murder, nor is it even manslaughter. There's an accident that has occurred, and so you can run to one of these places. Now, for human beings, normally, why do we run? There are some of us who are sick individuals who run for fun. If you ask me, that's a contradiction of terms. I don't understand that. You don't run for fun. Running is not fun, but some people do. Most sane human beings do not run for fun. Thank you, Bradley. And if you're running, there is a purpose behind it, and it's normally not good. It's because either there's a bear, a lion, a cheetah. I mean, you get the point. There's something chasing, but sometimes there's someone who's chasing you. And that's the case here in the story behind the city of refuge. There's someone who thinks and tells a different story than what you do and is coming after you for your life. Let's continue on in verse 3 of Joshua 20. And they, that is one of these 6 cities of refuge, shall be your refuge from the one who's called the Avenger of Blood. Who do you think that would be, the Avenger of Blood? I know we have some Marvel Avengers fans among us. Think about the Avengers. What's the role of Marvel's Avengers? We say about those are the good guys and gals. Those are the heroes and heroines. Who's your favorite Avenger? Mine is Captain America. You don't get any better than that. The first movie is in the sequence, the chronology is the best of them for me. Captain America. I am fond of Black Widow also, I will admit. There are quite a few of them that I like, but Captain America is my favorite. So these Avengers, who are they? What do they do? In case anyone hasn't watched the Forever Old series, we don't want to ruin it for you. But the general idea is there are people or objects, robots, whatever, who have created atrocities against humanity. And so they need to be punished. And the common average Joe, we're not strong enough. We don't know what to do. We can't do it. And so these superheroes, the good guys and the good gals, they come in to save the day and to even the playing field and to give what's deserved. That's the concept behind the Avenger of Scripture. The Avenger of blood. Blood has been shed, and the Avenger is the one who is seeking to make things right. Some believe this is just a family member who's really upset that a loved one got killed, and so they're going to chase the person to the ends of the earth to kill them. I'll be honest with you and say I'm not really convinced that's what the Avenger of blood in Scripture is. That seems to me to be a little bit of a willy-nilly vigilante style of justice that doesn't appear to be in accord with God's way of how he sets up justice to be worked. I think probably a better idea is like an old-time executioner. Someone who has governmental power established in him to carry out the execution of anyone who has unlawfully, as he understands it in his seed, sheds blood. And it might not be quite as grim as that. It might be a little more like a modern-day bounty hunter or a chief officer who executes justice in an area, someone like a sheriff. For us today, again, personally, I don't believe it's someone with no authority of law invested in him or her and is just mad and wants to kill somebody. I think this is a law enforcement officer that God has appointed to take care of those who have unlawfully shed the blood of others. And maybe has heard a different account than the one who is trying to give a defense of himself or herself. This Old Testament city of Refuge is a place where you can run and you can tell your side of the story. Let's carry on in verse 4 of Joshua 20. And when he flees to one of these cities and stands at the entrance of the gate of the city and declares his case in the hearing of the elders of that city, it's not that this person can go there and find asylum no matter what, even when vile crimes have been committed. It's when a person claims to be innocent of charges brought against him or her, the individual can flee to that city, and he doesn't just get to go inside and stay there regardless. He has to talk to those who are in charge of that city, and this is his opportunity, though, to put his case out before them. In the legal proceeding, this is what we would term a hearing. You've been accused of a crime, perhaps even charged with a crime. Well, you get your initial day in court. You get to go before those who are in charge, a city judge or a county judge. You get to go, or maybe a multiple of them, before that person or persons and state your case. You may do so exhaustively, or you may only do so in brevity. And for the charges that are brought against you, or a single charge, you might just state your case as not guilty on that day. But that's a plus. You've been heard. Well, this is the chance for the accused to go before those who are in charge judicially in the city to state the case and to say, I am not guilty, either in brevity or maybe even go through and explain everything that it is that has taken place. But you get your time to be heard in an opportunity when you really need to be heard. Continuing on in verse 4, they shall take him into that city as one of them and give him a place that he may dwell among them. So if you have someone who's saying, look, I'm innocent of these charges, nevertheless, he's being accused of a very serious crime, well, do you let him just go out among the populace? Because he may be guilty, after all, of that crime. No, you keep him in the area, one, for his safety, but also, two, to make sure that no other crimes like that of which he's accused would take place. We have a place that we do this and hold people also. It's called prison. And you can put a person there who's accused of a crime. That doesn't mean you're guilty just because you're being held, but it means you've been charged with a serious crime, and there is some pieces of evidence, or are some, that have been brought against you. And One, we want to keep you safe, and two, we want to make sure if you did do it, that you don't do it anymore. I don't know if this is a situation of prison, though, right here. Because you look back at the wording, they shall take him into the city and give him a place. That could be prison, but this doesn't sound like it. As one of them, that he may dwell among them. So he goes to this place that isn't his home. He might not know anyone from Adam, but where's he going to stay? Give him a spot. It seems to be their designated places. I don't know if this is prison as much. It might be a situation like house arrest. And you've got to stay at this location or maybe within the confines of this city. Do not leave, or you would violate the terms. Why would he want to leave? Because he fled there for a reason. Someone's trying to kill him, and he's come to this place where he now enjoys a protection that is supplied to him. Now stay with me. This is not going to be endless that this protection is provided, but it's temporarily until justice can properly be served. Verse 5, then if the avenger of blood pursues him, they shall not deliver the slayer into his hands. He's been heard, but he hasn't yet had his day in court. And God wants him to have an opportunity to be heard not just by a person or a few persons or over the city, but by common people like you and me, so that if he is innocent, he can hear the judgment that he desires to hear. You're right, not guilty of the charges that have been brought against you. Verse 6, and he shall dwell in that city until he stands before the congregation for judgment. Ordinary people like you and me. You know, I read these passages and then I think about our country and the way that it's set up. I'm so grateful for our legal and our judicial system. Hear me out. I know it's not perfect. I know there are people involved. I know there's bribery that takes place. I realize at times there's a perversion of justice. I'm not saying it's perfect in every way. You have people involved and there are going to be some imperfections. But I do find it fascinating that every piece of this we read, we're like, oh yeah, well yeah, that's the way that's supposed to work, because our society has been set up to operate exactly this way. This is the right to trial by jury. Common people listening to and deciding the fate of an individual, prospectively his very life, and certainly his days as he would move forward. So this guy goes to a place where he can be held, protected from someone who might kill him because he hasn't heard the other side of the story yet. He has his day in court for the hearing, and there's a time period that elapses. Probably all the evidence is being gathered by both sides, so the fullness of the story could be heard. And eventually, a people jury is going to decide his fate. Now, hopefully, this man is innocent, as he claims to be. Because if he is, surely common everyday people who would make sure that justice is served just as they would want it for themselves are going to give this guy a one-way ticket home. Look at the end of verse 6 in Joshua 20. If that's the case, then the slayer may return and come to his own city and his own house to the city from which he fled. And I haven't been in those shoes before in a courtroom, but I can only imagine if you've been held in jail for some time and you have no idea what the rest of your days are going to be like, or if you're going to have any days moving forward. To hear the verdict given by the people jury, not guilty. And when that happens, there's exuberance that breaks forth, and there has to be a feeling of joy unlike any other, because you know that you get to go home. That's the Old Testament city of refuge, the purpose of it. There were 6 of those that were set up, 3 on the east side of the Jordan River, 3 on the west side. They were positioned north, central, and south, so you didn't have to travel too far to get to one of those. But why is it in the Bible, and why does God want us to be studying this concept today? We read just a moment ago in Hebrews chapter 6, verses 16 through 19. I don't have the passage to put back on the screen. You can look in your own Bible or just listen if you would prefer. Hebrews 6, 16 through 19. For men indeed swear by the greater, and an oath for confirmation is for them an end of all dispute. Thus God, determining to show more abundantly to the heirs of promise the unchangeableness of his purpose, confirmed it by an oath, that by two unchangeable things in which it is impossible for God to lie, we today in the New Testament might have strong consolation who have fled or went running for refuge to lay hold of the hope set before us. Now this hope we have is an anchor of our souls, both sure and steadfast, in which enters the presence, the divine presence, behind the veil, the most holy place in heaven, which is the import of the Old Testament city of refuge. What we're being told is today, just like those people, God foreshadowed the city of refuge for his people in the New Testament. It's not a place, though, that you're going to find on earth. It's heaven itself. It's the city to which we can run and we can make an appeal when we find ourselves in legal trouble to get the help that we so desperately crave. It's a safe place when we're afraid we can go to. And yet, as God's child going to it, even when we find ourselves in trouble, we don't have to be afraid. Read with me the words of 1 John chapter 2 in the first verse. My little children, these things I write to you so that you may not sin. There's all kinds of legal terminology that's found here. What he's saying is, hey, my fellow servants of God, my little children in the faith who are learning from the inspired writings and orations that I give, I write these things to you that I do because I'm giving you a law, statutes that you're to follow. Don't violate them because then you would be recognized as a criminal. It's a crime to break the law, is what he's saying that I'm writing to you. And, which might better be translated, but if anyone sins or commits a crime, even though you could find yourself in trouble, you don't have to be in trouble. Understand that we have an advocate with the Father, the eternal judge, Jesus Christ, the righteous. The term here, advocate, means a lawyer. I like defense attorney. What do you do if you commit a terrible crime and you realize that? Who's the first person that you call? Other than Mom, or Dad. Who's the first person that you call besides that? Well, you know, I need to get some legal representation here because I messed up with the law. And, you know, we have this family friend. I know he or she is a lawyer, knows the law really well, went to school with it, and that person can help me. So you need someone to help you out because you violated the law, hopefully, to get the least amount of punishment possible, or better yet, to be let off the hook, even though a law has been violated. That's what this passage is telling us, that God has given us a law in his nation to follow. And be careful that you follow these statutes laid out, because if you don't, you've committed a crime. And that means you're a criminal, and criminals must be punished. But also, if you find yourself in desperate straits, don't give up. There's still hope. You have a lawyer or a defense attorney who would love to plead your case for you. And this guy is a lawyer unlike any other. It's beyond, he went to school and he studied it. He knows every word of it, every nuance of this law. In fact, he lived according to the same law, morally, generally speaking. And unlike us, though, he never committed a single crime in violating it. That's how well he knows that law. He knows it so well that he wrote that law. Who would you rather have as your defense attorney? Heaven is such a special place of refuge to which we can run, not because of the beauty that's found in it, but because of the person that's found there. The best lawyer who exists is located in heaven, and when you're afraid because you violated this law, you can run to him and you can make your appeal and understand you need to do so because there's someone who's chasing after you who justly wants you to pay for your crimes. I say wants. There's a side of him that wants you to pay, and there's a side of him that doesn't want you to pay. I appreciate the description that's given of God in Romans 5, verse 8, but God demonstrates his own love toward us. And that while we were still sinners, and he should have merely been chasing after us to penalize us, instead he sends us a gift when we don't deserve it. His own Son to die in our place for the punishment of the crimes that we had committed. Listen to verse 9. Much more than having now been justified or declared not guilty in court of our crimes, by his blood we shall be saved from wrath, the avenger of wrath, through him. At first thought, you might think that avenger of wrath to be Satan. That's not who it is. It's God, the eternal judge. And there's the just side of him that demands punishment for crime, for violation of moral law. And so when he sees us and realizes the prize of his creation, all should be punished. The privilege of life stripped from them because they have violated it, they haven't appreciated it as they should have, he knows that he has to punish sin. But so desperately, he doesn't want us to have to be the ones to pay for it, that he selects his own child to take our place and to take that punishment for the crimes committed on himself. Our city of refuge is a place where we can go to be heard and to find the help we need when we desperately require it. We recently studied on Wednesday night adult class in the 4th chapter of Hebrews, verses 14 through 16, that in Jesus we have this great high priest who has passed through the heavens. Jesus, the Son of God. Therefore, let us hold fast our confession, for we do not have a representative. 1 John 2 would say an advocate, a lawyer, or a defense attorney who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but was in all points tempted as we are, yet without sin. When we go to our God in heaven, we approach him via the avenue of the Son who lived the exact same life that we do. He felt every one of the pressures, the draw to every categorical sin. He knows what that's like. The only difference is he never gave into and committed a crime, never violated law a single time. You tell me a more qualified attorney than this one. Listen to the lesson, though, in verse 16. Let us therefore come boldly to the throne of grace. Now, in the Old Testament, when you go running to the city of refuge, what's your mentality? You're afraid. It's different for here. We don't have the spirit of fear. As God's child, we come running to our city of refuge of heaven boldly, recognizing we're coming as his child not to a throne of judgment, but a throne of grace, to receive forgiveness, that we may obtain not penalty for our wrongs as we deserve, but mercy, and find grace to help in time of need. And in Hebrews, there's this word of encouragement that we've already discussed, and it's hope. And that's the hope that we have in living for our God. Not that we've been so good, he has to declare us not guilty, because if he were honest and were only on our merits, he would have to say, guilty of all charges. The only way for us to be found not guilty isn't through judgment simply of ourselves, but through mercy and forgiveness. So in the city of refuge, we go running to it toward heaven, and we get there to find the protection that God offers only to his children. It was foretold through the writings of the prophet Isaiah in the 4th chapter, verse 4. He's looking to the future, and he says, this is down the road, when the Lord has washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion. So when the children, the true children of Jerusalem, have their sins washed away, we know how that takes place. Verse 6, then there will be a tabernacle or a shelter for shade in the daytime from the heat, for a place of refuge, and for a shelter from storm and rain. These are extreme weather conditions. You're talking days that are like 100 degrees and the sun's beating down in the summer. Or in the storms roll in. We live in the Ozarks, so we know every extreme. And when I hear 100-degree heat and the need for shelter, I think the last week of July at church camp. You're out there all day long, and you get to the afternoon hour. It doesn't look like much, but there's this little place we call the canteen, where there's a small canopy over these few picnic tables that are there, and the bare essentials are offered to children, Dr. Peppers and Cokes and a bag of sour Skittles just to get through the day. And I'm sitting there sipping my water, my mouth watering, thinking about the sour Skittles that the kids are enjoying right now. And it doesn't look like much, but man, just that 30 minutes to get protection. It's still 100 degrees outside, but it feels like heaven underneath that little canopy to get that break from the heat. I hear of storms that come beating down upon us, and I think about the times I've been out on the golf course. When I was I think probably a freshman in high school, my dad, my brother, and I were playing golf. I think it was the 4th through 6th holes. We noticed hot, dry time in summer. And we noticed there were some clouds building back on the horizon. Well, that didn't stop us from playing golf. We just keep going. We get to the 8th hole, and Dad says, "Guys, there's pink all in the sky right there." And I'm thinking, oh, that's cute. The sky looks like cotton candy. Dad's like, "Hail is coming." How do you know that? Well, I think we teed off in the 9th hole, and it started raining. Dad said, "Pick up your balls. We're going in." And so we get them all picked up, and 3 of us climb onto this 2-man cart. We go flying across. The heavens open. I mean, this torrential downpour. Just as soon as we get our cart into that cart shed, we hear doom, 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 doom. And I mean a hard hail, big hail for 10 to 15 minutes. I'm looking at my dad like, "You are a wizard. How do you know this stuff?" It didn't look like much from the outside or even on the inside of that cart shed, but let me tell you, that cart shed looked like heaven that day. It was the break that we need exactly when we needed it. God says it's like that little camp canopy when the heat of the world is bearing down on you. I'll provide that for you. And it's like that cart shed when you're about to get pummeled. We might have died, no joke, if we'd have stayed out there just a few seconds longer. God says, I'm that cart shed. Come running to your city of refuge and see what it is that I can provide to you. Come and I'll help you to receive the judgment that you desire. Now, in the Old Testament city of refuge, the only way you're declared not guilty is if you truly, on your own merits, are not guilty. It's not the way it works for our refuge in heaven. James chapter 2, verse 10, "Whoever shall keep the whole law," you stand on your own, you're in trouble. Because if you stumble in one point, you're guilty of all. You're a criminal, and it doesn't matter which crime you committed. You're guilty, and you're not worthy. Verse 13, "Judgment is without mercy to the one who has shown no mercy." But for our city of refuge, there's a better way today, where mercy triumphs over judgment. I like to say it this way: God's mercy is deemed greater than your sin. That's for his child who comes running to the throne of God to get the help that he or she so desperately requires. And God wishes above all to give you a one-way ticket home. In the 11th chapter of Hebrews, we read about these tremendous servants of God, men, women, old, young. Verse 13 says, "These all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off, were assured of them, embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. For those who say such things declare plainly that they seek a homeland. And truly, if they had called to mind that country from which they had come out, they would have had opportunity to return. But now they desire a better, that is a heavenly country. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them." With the Old Testament city of refuge, if you were found to be innocent, you got to go home. And you go back to the country from which you came. And at first glance, that seems great, but don't forget, this is the place from which you had to run before. It's the place where people accused you of something which was not true. It's a stigma that's going to stick with you for the rest of your life. I'm going to say for most of these people, home probably wasn't quite as good when they went back as what it was the first time. Well, when you come running to your city of refuge in heaven, you get the chance when you leave to go back to wherever it is that you consider to be home. And I don't want to be misunderstood in saying this, but I've been a very spoiled person, extremely blessed, I feel, in my life to enjoy the homes that I have. I love my childhood house where I lived for 15 years. I'm so grateful for the house where our family lives now. I think we've been there roughly 6 years. I can think of no better place in the whole world to live than the Ozarks. Now, disclaimer, I haven't traveled the world. I've been outside of the country and a lot of the country. So, that may be skewed. But there's no place I would rather live in this world than the Ozarks. There's certainly no country where I'd rather live than the United States of America. All that being said, my childhood house is not my home. Our family's current house is not my home. It's hard to say, but the Ozarks is not my home. America is not my home. My home is the one that God has promised to me and to you and to all those who love him. My home is found in heaven. My home is a city of refuge to which I flee. And it's such a great place. If I didn't have to leave there, I wouldn't after I'm done in prayer. But I need to come back here to stay in these temporary dwellings, just like the people of old who said, hey, look, this is nice what God has given us here, but this isn't home. We want to go home to the city of refuge that God has prepared for every one of us. To get there, though, you have to get your ticket punched. You need a one-way ticket to home. Jesus explains to a guy who wants a ticket home. In John, the 3rd chapter, he says, verse 3, most assuredly I say to you, unless one is born again, he cannot enter the kingdom of God. You can't go to heaven unless you're born again. He says, I don't understand. Explain to him, and he tells him, most assuredly I say to you, unless one is born of water and of the Spirit, he cannot enter the kingdom of God. You can't go home. Heaven can't be your home. This is your ticket home. Come united with Jesus through being born again of God's Spirit in water. Live for me. And then you have your ticket punched to make it home. Unfortunately, once we get that ticket punched, we can't just go straight home. And we have to stay in a place to dwell as a stranger, in a land that's not our home. We live in this place as a foreigner. Good things, but not as good as what our home's going to be. And we face struggles. There's the heat from all of life's pressures. There's the storms that bombard us, and we think, how am I going to get through? Don't forget to spend some time in your home. Hit your knees, fold your hands, and talk to your Father, relying on your defense attorney. Recognizing you don't have to run to your city of refuge in fear, but in boldness, asking for the help that you need to get through. Begging for the grace and the mercy that only heaven can provide. I know that sometimes it seems like our sin has just become too great, but I wish to remind you of a promise of God. James chapter 2, verse 13, judgment's without mercy to the one who has shown no mercy, but for the one who has, mercy triumphs over judgment. Translation, no matter how great your sin, if you will humbly present yourself before your God, ready to submissively give in, his mercy is always more. Your sin is great, but his mercy is more. If you could use some help and some protection from life's heat, from the storms, the barrage of them that has come down upon you, come as heaven's refugee, flee with boldness to your city of refuge as we stand and sing together.